Hello, everyone. My name is Terene Comito, and I'm the Director of Education and Outreach for Nevada Ballet Theater, and I'm so excited that all of you can join us for our pre-performance program, Insights. You're all in for a very, very special treat tonight. I would like to introduce Nevada Ballet Theater's Artistic Director, Mr. Roy Kaiser.
Hi. So, I'm spilling water all over the stage. That's bad. Okay, I'm going to put it down. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. This is my first Insights. You're here for the first one. Oh, I'm going to sit. And this gentleman to my right is choreographer Matthew Neenan, who is not only a very talented choreographer, he also happens to be the resident choreographer at Pennsylvania Ballet in Philadelphia. He's a co-founder of Ballet X, a wonderful company in Philadelphia that's doing all of this cutting-edge work and has been for, 11 years now? Co-founder. He's a founder. He looks too young, right? But he's a co-founder. And most importantly for all of you tonight, he's created a new work for our program this evening. So you will see some of Matthew's work on the stage. Behind me, they figured you'd get really tired of looking at me for a half an hour. So we do have a reel going up here, and this is rehearsal footage of the creative process in creating the work that you'll see tonight. So you watch that a little bit, you'll probably recognize many different sections of it as we get into the performance. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the program before I have a little conversation with Matt. The program is entitled Ballet and Broadway. Pretty straightforward, right? But in looking at the program, it's actually very interesting in how the different works came from different inspirations. We open the evening with ballet by a wonderful choreographer by the name of Christopher Wheeldon. The ballet is entitled Carousel, a Dance. Now this is a ballet that was created as a dance, as a standalone dance for the ballet stage, but inspired by the musical Carousel. He uses the music, uses the Rodgers and Hammerstein music, but really just created a theatrical dance for the stage. It's inspired by the play, but it doesn't take anything out of the play. The second piece on the program is, well, actually, I'm going to jump to the end. The end of the program is a ballet by the choreographer George Balanchine entitled Slaughter on 10th Avenue. Now, the company performed this a couple of seasons ago, so some of you may have seen that. And if you haven't, I think you'll enjoy it tonight. But this is an example of a ballet that Mr. Balanchine did within a play, the musical On Your Toes, and then later at New York City Ballet extracted this dance sequence and put it on a ballet stage. So it was done originally for a Broadway show. And then rounding out the program is a wonderful potida created by Mr. Balanchine, Tarantella potida, which is a true test of the talent in any company, and we have two wonderful dancers performing this piece for you tonight. It's only 6 minutes long, but it is non-stop physicality and entertainment. It was created originally for Edward Villela. Any dance people out there know Edward Villela? I mean, he was he was a man's man, and Patricia McBride, a wonderful, wonderful dancer. So we have a piece here that was inspired by the specific dancers that it was created for. And then rounding out the program is something brand new. And it's a piece entitled Until December. It's created by Matthew Neenan. And I think it's probably safe to say, Matt's going to talk a little bit about it, but I think it's safe to say that this was really inspired by the music more than anything else. And then maybe ultimately the dancers that you chose. So 4 different works, 4 different inspirations, 4 different looks at this wonderful art form we call ballet and dance. And we did a dress rehearsal last night. I have to say the company looks fantastic in every piece. I think they've taken it up a notch. They're really excited. They will be really excited to be out on the stage tonight. So with that said, I'm going to let Matthew say a few words. Full disclosure, I've known Matt since he was about 2 years old. Not quite, but Matt came to Pennsylvania Ballet as a young dancer after I was directing the company there and danced with the company for many years. How many years were you there?
12.
12. That's a long career in this business. Wonderful dancer, danced many, many wonderful roles, an audience favorite. And somewhere along the line, while Matt was still performing with the company, I discovered that he not only had a great interest in choreographing, but he also had talent. And it was actually a piece that I saw Matt do as part of a benefit performance that the dancers of the company put on every year. And then I saw a second one, and I said, okay, this guy has something to say. And we commissioned your first piece for the company, for the main company in 1998. 8. Wow. And I meant to go back and try and count up how many you did. You've done so many commissions for Pennsylvania Ballet. Eventually, I was able to create the position of resident choreographer for Matthew, a position he still holds today. So he's created a large part of the repertoire of this company. He's also worked, around the world, really, and he works as a freelance choreographer. He has done and continues to work with Ballet X as a choreographer. So I just realized we both have the same shoes on. We do. Must be a Philadelphia thing. I don't know. Anyway, I was actually going to ask you if you would, to begin, maybe tell the folks a little bit. We've told this story a few times. Tell them a little bit about how this work came about.
Well, I had worked here in 2011. Nevada Ballet Theater did an existing work of mine that was created at Pennsylvania Ballet in 2009 called At the Border, to music by John Adams. And they performed that work here in 2011. And I've always had a wonderful relationship with Beth Barbary and James Cameron, and I think we always had a plan for me to come back. But as years goes on and we get busy and we're like, oh, can this work for you? No, it can't. What about this time? No, we've already commissioned this, And then as years go on and you're like, all right, we haven't found our serendipitous moment again yet, but we will. Then when I found out Roy was coming here as the new director, I was like, oh. And we had been corresponding, and he was like, yeah, I have some plans, so get ready to hear from me. But with many artists, and when we're booking ballets, they plan the season 2 to 3 years in advance. So sometimes in your head, especially as you get older, you think like, oh, it's going to happen soon. Soon means 3 to 4 years, but that's still soon, as we all know. But Roy had called me about 2 months ago.
It was 2 months ago when, Matt mentioned Beth Barbary, and during the transition time, Beth Barbary actually put this season together, and you should give her a round of applause for that, because I think it's really been a wonderful season, what I've been able to experience of it. But there was a slot on this last program, the Ballet and Broadway program, for a new work, and that was left for me. So who did I call? And it literally was, I got here full-time in January, and really, so it wasn't that long ago. I called Matt.
It wasn't.
And I totally expected him to say, I am booked until 2020. But go ahead.
But what was great was he was like, I just need like a 10-minute piece. He's like, it doesn't even have to be that long. And if we can't find something 10 minutes, it's fine, but can you do a 10-minute work? I was like, well, of course I can. But I also was going to be here anyway because my partner right now is working and living in Vegas doing the show Opium at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. So I was already going to be here visiting
Commercial
him.
break.
So I was like, well, I'm actually going to be there. That was like a vacation period for me, but now it won't be, which is fine, because I just jumped at the chance. There was no question, and yeah, it's been fabulous.
Well, and I'm glad we're so happy that Matt was able to do this. And then I'll take it a step further. We were corresponding a little bit, and we were talking about the length of the piece, and Matt was listening to music. And I happen to be, I love Las Vegas. I haven't been here that long, but I love Las Vegas. I love like all of these very odd connections throughout the community, and you never know who you're going to meet tomorrow. So I was at a party at somebody's home down on the Strip, and Donato Cabrera, the conductor of the Las Vegas Philharmonic, was there. We were talking, and he was telling me about a piece that they had done by Michael Torkey, the composer. And he was talking about what a great experience it was, and Michael was there. And I said, oh, Michael, you brought Michael in? He said, no, Michael lives in Las Vegas, right? Everybody lives in Las Vegas. So I said, oh, that's really interesting. And Michael is very well known in the dance community because he's done a lot of work, a lot of original compositions for dance and ballet. And choreographers, many choreographers have used his music around the world to create work too. So I'm sitting at my computer one morning in the office, and that's kind of sitting in my head, so I just shot Matt off a quick email, and I said, I don't know where you are with music yet, and I don't even know if you like Michael Torkey's music, but just an FYI, he lives in Las Vegas. Just so you know, right? I just put it out there. But do whatever you want. And then Matt writes back, like within an hour.
I had been listening to this Michael Torkey piece called December for like the past month, and considering it for this company.
Yeah.
Because a good friend of mine, who's actually going to be here tonight, and we were having a trip in Miami like 2 months ago, and he has a PhD in music, and then he's a total music nerd, and he kept playing me all this stuff, and he was like, have you ever used Michael Torkey? And I was like, no, I haven't, but I've seen a lot of his ballets, and he did a lot of stuff for Peter Martins in New York City Ballet back in the 1980s and the 1990s, and I'm like, I love his stuff. He did Ecstatic Orange and another piece called Ash that I love, and I said, no, but I'm like, what about him? And he was like, oh, this piece of his called December, he's like, if you're looking for a 10-minute work, it's really beautiful, and it's full orchestra, full string orchestra. He was like, think about it. And so I had been listening to this music, and also thinking like, I think Michael Torkey would be a good person to know. He's still a living composer, and, from what I've heard, a wonderful man. And then when he was like, he lives in Vegas, or at least, New York and Vegas, which I had no idea. So again, another like moment of serendipity with this work.
Yeah. So it was meant to be, it appears. And we had dinner shortly after you arrived in town. We ended up having dinner with Michael. Michael was so happy that Matt had decided to use his music, and he's been involved in the process from the beginning, really, from day one. And he's been coming to rehearsals, and he said after the first rehearsal he said, he wrote this piece of music, and he said, now I hear it differently after seeing the dance. And he was here for orchestra rehearsal the other night, and here for dress rehearsal last night, and he'll be here tonight. So very serendipitous and wonderful the way these things kind of fall into place sometimes, and they're just meant to be. So that's how it came about. And I was going to ask you, Matt, if you would just talk a little bit about your experience here, your process. we were able to give you a day where you had the entire company,
Yeah.
where you got to
2 days.
2 days. I was out of town.
Right.
I only approved 1 day.
Yeah.
No,
You were-
2 days.
Roy was packing up his house in Philadelphia.
Right,
So
right.
it's like the
So you
first
had-
day I
so you
got
had
here, I
2
was like,
days.
"Where are you going?" He was like, "I have to go back to Philly. I have to pack.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a few days."
Yeah.
But then that was my second day, and I
Okay.
had a full day with the dancers too.
Talk a little bit about your process with them.
It's kind of the same everywhere unless I really know the company. If I do a new work for Pennsylvania Ballet or Ballet X in Philadelphia, I know the dancers so well. I usually cast it before I start the process. Not always, but it's great when you know the dancers. Here at Nevada Ballet Theater, I knew 3 of the dancers who were here in 2011. But I knew I needed like that day or 2 of the audition period, which can kind of be a heinous moment for a dancer. I remember that at years at Pennsylvania Ballet, whether it's someone who's staging a famous work by like George Balanchine or Yuri Killian or Nacho Duato, William Forsythe, the stager or a new choreographer, whether it's Christopher Wheeldon or whoever, David Parsons, I remember, like, you have to have this audition period and the whole company is called. And even if it's a ranked company from principal to an apprentice, you are all called to kind of audition for the piece to see who gets casted, which is a wonderful opportunity for dancers who might not be considered, but it can also be a little bit stressful, and especially if you feel like you might not be in it, you don't really want to be there. But what was great about being with this company again, I felt like all the dancers were really receptive and really wanted to be there and just kind of show, this is how I move, this is how I dance. I already had warned them that it wasn't going to be a large work. It was only 10 minutes, so I first thought it was going to be a 3 to 5 person ballet, give or take, men or women, I didn't really know. But I ended up using 9 of them because I was really inspired and impressed with, I mean, even more than 9 of them, the whole company really, it really was hard for me to kind of downsize. Like, I really would love this person. I would think this person would work great with this dancer, and thinking of partnerships, because when you only have about a week or 2 to create a work, your process is more about, it's very reactive. It's not like if you know the group of dancers on this side of the room and you're like, we have a month to create a work and we're gonna have a full day of workshop where we can make a mistake and then scratch that and go, you know, you don't have that much time for that in ballet. You just don't. But in a way, that makes the choreographer and the dancer and the artist to really own their game. European choreographers who a lot of time have this incredible luxury of creating a work for weeks, and they're even in the theater for weeks, and you hear that and you're like, but then it's always lovely to hear them say, they're like, when you come to an American company and you work with American dancers, they're like, what do you want me to do? I'm going to do it right now. That's what you want? Yeah, I can do it. That's the feeling, that's the emotion you want, because they kind of have this understanding like the time is now. And we have no time to really like waste, or it's not even waste, or just to like spend, like they have that understanding like we have to make this impression now, and it's on the stage in 3 weeks. So it's just different. I don't even know what's worse or what's better, but it's just different.
Very different.
It's just like a conversation to be had. Discuss. You know what I mean? You know, like I don't even know what the right answer is. It's just interesting, you know, and when you come to even a company in America that's smaller, like 25 dancers and under, you know, you come into the room and all the dancers are, like I said, they're like, what should we do? What's going on? How do you want, you know, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It makes my job so much more fascinating.
Yeah. It's what I've always really liked about Matt's work and about his process, and I've watched him for many years, is the collaborative element that you bring into the room. I mean, choreographers are all very different, and you know, I think most of the good choreographers are very musical. They understand music. They know the piece of music that they're using inside out before they step into the room. But there are some choreographers, I think, that count that music out and have a step for each count before they walk into the room. And this is for a woman, and this is for a man, and this is, right? It's just very organized and and that's, you know, that's a way to go. But I think Matt walks into the room certainly knowing the music, but really relying on, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but relying a lot on the individual talents of the dancers that you're working with to help develop the movement. You give them the seed, and they help develop it. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And it just makes it more fun. When I was more of a novice choreographer, I did much more like copious notes of like, and this count, and I still do that, because like if I'm working with a large corps de ballet, you do have to sometimes count the music for everyone. I usually prefer not to. I want the music to find the dancer, and the dancer to find the music. What does counting mean, really? I know we do have to at times, and that's the science of art form that we have to abide by at times. But for me, I just find it so much more fun if you're working with a dancer and they just take the movement to a whole nother level that you didn't see was gonna happen, or they just drop to the floor and sometimes they fall, or sometimes they come out of the lift, or they drop someone because like it didn't go right. And I was like, well, go with that because it looked honest and it looked human. And for me, my work, I feel like it works best. I tell dancers all the time, I said it looks best when it looks like you choreographed it and not me. Like, I'm out of it now. I'm done. I'm in the audience watching. I may take a bow, but it's now yours, and it has to look like you created it, that it came from your heart, and that you as a community of dancers decided, I'm gonna take Roy and flip him over this table and say, hit him over the, whatever.
Just try it.
Whether it's like something of like beauty or something combative, it has to look real. And a lot of the choreographers who I really admire, and that's what I admire about their work, is that it looks so spontaneous and that they just did it right now, right here.
Yeah.
Rather than rehearse it for weeks, which they do.
I will say that a great benefit to me as a new director for the company, I mean, I've been coming here since October, and as I said, I arrived permanently in January, and I've really been trying to learn as much as I can about the dancers in the company. There's some wonderfully talented dancers in this company, and seeing Matt work with them and also seeing them perform his ballet, the final product, has showed me a whole different side of many of them, a whole different side of artistry that I just didn't know until the last couple weeks existed. So I thank you for that. And I think they look fantastic in it. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. The beginning, just so you know, well, I'll tell you at the theater. Never mind. I'm getting this. You know what that means? 5 minutes, and they told me at 5 minutes I'm supposed to open it up for questions. You have any questions for myself or for Matthew, Mr. Neenan? Yes, sir. No, I am not going to replicate Pennsylvania and Nevada. And I'll tell you, no, I know that. No, I have no interest in I left Pennsylvania Ballet. That's done. This is a whole new experience for me, and I'm the question was, what's my vision, and am I going to replicate Pennsylvania Ballet here? The reason Matt is here is that, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the piece that Matt has done here is unlike anything he did in Pennsylvania. And the reason that I brought him here is that I knew he would react to and respond to and work with the talent here in Nevada, which he has done. I'm happy to say he has done. So the only thing that I think will resemble the work that I did in Pennsylvania is that I really want to bring Las Vegas a well-rounded representation of what this art form has to offer. And by that I mean, some of the full-length classic narrative ballets that are appropriate for this company. I think they're important, and I will program those. We have 2 of those next season. I like the work of George Balanchine. I like the work of many different choreographers. Eventually, I'd like to get into the work of Yuri Killian and Jerome Robbins. I think they're very accessible and they're wonderful growing experiences for the dancers. And then I'm also really going to be committed to creating new work, because I think that that's what gives the company its unique identity, not in the dance world, beyond Las Vegas. I want to get this company outside of Las Vegas. I mean, we'll always be here. This will always be our home, but this company needs to be seen outside of Las Vegas. So we'll hope to build that entity as well. Anybody else? We could not have covered everything. Yeah? You just can't wait to see the performance, right? Yeah? I can't either. So we'll go over there. You're going to see me again. You have to put up with me again just for a few minutes at the top of the show, because I'm going to tell you about next season. Okay? Yes? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.